Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day.
Hey, Pathway friends. I have the pleasure of bringing to you today the June mission moment, which is going to be a short video about House of Hope. Not a lot of new information in this video, but it is a bit of a fresh take on how they're serving the Lord in Guatemala. As many of you know, the sad news about House of Hope is that the Herman's daughter, Izzy, recently passed away of cancer. Although our hearts go out to the Herman family, it's still pretty great to see the service that they're doing for God's kingdom and how Isabel's testimony is being used. I miss you all. Hope you're doing well. Enjoy the video.
Hi there, and welcome to House of Hope. We are a home for 15 children who have been abandoned and abused. It is a home where the children are loved, nurtured, healed, and encouraged to be who God has destined them to be. We have seen the light that comes out of the darkness of each one of these children when they experience the love within these walls. When a child is found abandoned in Guatemala or taken from an abusive situation by the police, they go to a holding area in the courthouse. At this point, the social worker calls the private orphanages to see if they have room. When we receive a child at House of Hope, they undergo a medical exam and blood tests. We have seen a lot of disturbing things with these children when they arrive. Marks of abuse, breathing difficulties, scabies, lice, and extreme malnutrition, to name a few. Part of what we do is not only to love these kids, but to work to heal the whole body here at House of Hope. Our wonderful nannies dedicate themselves to bringing these children back to wholeness after the rough roads they have traveled. Slowly but surely, day by day, the children start to come out of their traumatized state. The love of Jesus is an amazing tool in healing these precious children inside and out. Our children that are aged 2 to 5 attend our Christian school here at House of Hope. We have found that this is the best option for them, as they are usually behind when they come to our home and are burdened with psychological issues caused from abuse and neglect. Each child seems to come with their own unique set of issues that require a customized curriculum. We know that each child that has been brought into our lives here at House of Hope is here for a reason. We see Jesus in each child that comes through these gates. He is the reason we dedicate our lives each day to helping the vulnerable children of this country. One of these precious children is named Marjorie. She came to us at 5 months old with a black eye and bruises down her back. Her mom was found passed out on drugs with Marjorie in the street. Someone turned the baby into the police, and no one has come forward to claim this sweet baby girl. David came to us just a few days old. He was abandoned in the Central Park in the city. A couple found him and turned him into the police. Roxana is our newest addition at House of Hope. She was found in the dump, wet and cold, her cord still attached, crying softly. We are working in the courts to have all 3 of these precious children become adoptable. We desire moms and dads for these little ones who will value them and love them for all of their lives. When the courts cannot find private orphanages to take a child, the child is placed in a government-run compound. They are known to be very dark places. There are 3 in this country. Recently, the government-run orphanage in Guatemala City was in the national news. The conditions were described as deplorable. Food was in shortage, and the living conditions horrific. It is supposed to be an institution for 400 children, and there were over 800 living there. They are staffed with a ratio of 50 to 1. Many of the teenagers had been in prison, but because they are not 18 and had no parents, they were placed in this institution. Sexual and physical abuse was running rampant. 60 teenage girls escaped one night. They were tired of being sexually abused and starved, and were desperate to get away, but they were captured by the police and sent back. That night, as they were locked in a room, a fire was started. No one would open the door, and 40 girls died. We pray earnestly for the children here, and that this tragedy will cause changes at the government level. There's a huge difference in running a home because of Christ versus a government-run orphanage. The institutions attract corruption and darkness. Our goal is to have a home that shines with the light of Christ. We would like you to pray about joining our team of House of Hope. We need prayer warriors for these precious children and financial donors to help us continue to take care of these kids. It costs approximately $9,000 a month to run the House of Hope. We ask that you will consider joining the work that God has called us as believers to do.
All right, I've entitled this message "In Search of Security," because I think that's what we're doing in these days. We just this past week had that thing in Minneapolis, and it's hard to even imagine. It's like what Are we living on some other planet? It certainly doesn't give us a sense of security. And then on top of that, we've had the COVID-19 thing and the information and the disinformation. What do you trust? How do you know anything these days? I mean, the internet is supposed to be the dawn of the age of information, but it seems like it's also the dawn of misinformation. And if you don't know, then how do you know what to do? It doesn't give you a lot of security. We're fighting the COVID thing, but we're also fighting the economy thing. And that certainly isn't going to give you a sense of security. We have the tensions that we have with China, and this is the political election year. So all this distrust, all this stuff, the sea of confusion that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, is all, I think, leading to a sense of insecurity. So I think we are, in many ways, in search of security. First of all, there's the financial security. I mentioned the economy. What's going to happen with the economy? People have lost their jobs. People are on unemployment. The government is printing money. I mean, how does this ultimately go? I mean, where does this all end? Security has something to do with money. We need jobs. Jobs pay us money, and it's with money that we buy things like our clothes and our food, and we take care of our families, and we're so concerned about it that we send our kids to school for many, many years, and the point of this going to school is so they can learn something and ultimately, I suppose, get a job so that they can buy a house or rent a house. And it's our house that gives us a sense of security. We can hide behind the walls of our house when things are threatening outside. It's the place where our family can live and thrive. And there's a sense of being protected when the world is scary and dangerous. It's a place to sleep. I know my wife, when we're on vacation, when we're, in Europe or Asia or just anywhere, she is not secure until we have a place to stay that night. We had some experiences early on where we're running around at 1 o'clock in the morning and we have no place to stay. And we're considering staying in the park. So that sense of security that a house brings. But then there's all the insurances that we buy. If you own a house, you have to buy insurance in case it burns down. You have to buy health insurance in case you get sick. You have car insurance in case you get into an accident. So finances, or the lack of them, either gives us a sense of security or it takes our security away. Now the economy, no one knows what's going to happen. Is it going to be a V-shaped recovery? It goes way down and then comes straight back up. Is it a W? Is it a check mark? Is it a circle? I mean, you pick a letter. What is it supposed to be? And how do we know? And how do you make any plans? Things like retirement, will that all just disappear? So all of these things are sort of taking away our sense of security. Health. I mentioned health insurance, but we're concerned about our health. The last few months I have this little lump right here on my neck, and I had a lump removed behind my ear a couple years ago. It was 1 out of 6 chance that it could have been cancerous, and thankfully it was not. But the doctor back then said it could grow back and you could have the same experience again. So a few months back, 4 or 5 months back, I noticed this thing, and so my doctor, that, it takes months and months and months, and finally I went to my doctor a week and a half ago, or had to find a new guy because the guy who did the surgery went off to California. That's another story. And anyway, he said, "Don't worry about it. It's some of the carnage of your last surgery. This part of my face is numb, and so on." So, that was a great relief. But your health and concerns about your health sort of take your security away from you. So we all have our health concerns, and we can be lulled into a sense of security, because we haven't gotten sick in a long time. But this whole COVID thing is out there, and initially we were all afraid. We're all staying inside. But now as months have gone by, and maybe you don't know that many people that have gotten it, people are becoming braver, and they're not as worried. But, has anything really changed? I don't know. So are we secure? Are we not secure? So there's the whole area of health. And then there's relationships. I think that probably is one of the biggest areas of our sense of security, is relationships. If you have a few really good friends, it just feels like the world is okay, like things are going to be okay. If you have a friend that you can confide with, even though you're going through some really difficult times, when you have a close friend that you can talk to, it's like, well, maybe I can get through this. If you have family, if you have a great marriage, someone that you can really count on. See, and if you don't have those things, then you have this sense of being alone. If you have a marriage where it's nothing but frustration and fighting and strife, then it brings out all kinds of insecurity. You can't count on someone. You have an enemy in your own place. Or belonging to a church, belonging to a group of people that care about one another. That's the beauty of being part of church and being a part of the church universal, being a part of the kingdom, what God is doing all over the world. And, back in January, I was in South Africa, all over South Africa and Ethiopia. And it's just amazing that you can go to these places halfway around the world, and I'm with people I've never met before, but they call themselves Christians just like I do. And instantly, you're part of that team. And things that might be fearful, insecure situations. South Africa has all kinds of problems. In some ways, it's a very dangerous place. But when you're with people that care about you, you don't feel that sense of danger. So relationships, being a part of things. And of course, then there's heaven and hell. I've sort of represented this with this picture. You get the fire on the one side, and you got this beautiful, universe on the other side. Certainly I don't think people think about it that often, but the biggest sense of security comes when you know Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. And that when you die, which, death is that thing that takes all security away. When you're threatened by death, it's an insecure situation. But when you have the sense that you're saved and you're going to get heaven, then that breathes security in everything. But if you're worried about going to hell, of course, that takes your security away. Now, I know a lot of people in our culture, secular people, don't believe in hell anymore. They sort of hold out the possibility there might be a heaven, but they dismiss the idea that there is a hell. But really, there's still a hell. For secular people, there's the possibility of heaven, and then there's the possibility that nothing matters. That when you die, you go into the ground, and the sun burns out, the earth freezes over, and that's the end of human existence. That seems like a hell to me as well. And then we have all kinds of other things that have come on to our modern world. We have the threat of digital theft. People can steal your identity. They can steal your passwords. All of a sudden we have digital identities. in which we can be insecure or secure, and all kinds of companies are offering all kinds of products that can help you in your security. We not only have viruses, biological viruses, but we also have digital viruses that seek to do us harm. So we have all these different threats and concerns in our lives that sort of steal our sense of security. So I think we have this sense of insecurity. Well, when does that insecurity sort of manifest itself? I think number one, we tend to feel insecure when we are uncertain. And these days, there's a lot of uncertainty. All the things I just mentioned. The economy, what's going to happen? We have no idea. Is your job going to be there a year from now? Who knows? Is the world going to go into a tailspin? Who knows? How many deaths are going to result because the economy tanks worldwide? Who knows? I mean, we're not even talking hardly about that. And this COVID-19, how's this going to end? What's the end game? I looked at some of the graphs, and we're basically at the same level we were at in March. And in March, we closed everything down to save everything, and everything's just kept going up. And now things are at the exact same level they were in March, and we're opening up. And how does this end? I mean, it's summer, and is that supposed to kill things? And vaccine, all these things. It's like, how does this go? We have all this uncertainty and conflicting data and conflicting voices and angry voices all over the place. And then you had this thing in Minneapolis, and all the uncertainty we have in front of us. Is it any wonder that people feel anxious? And they're feeling anxious because they're feeling insecure. They're uncertain of what's going on in their lives. Uncertainty in terms of relationships. If you're in a marriage and it's not going well, you're uncertain about how it's going to go. If you're in a family where there's a lot of strife and anger and frustration, then family members are in a situation of uncertainty. Is this family going to blow up? What's going to happen? Where's the future? No one knows. And in that situation, people have a feeling of insecurity. The young people graduating, are there going to be jobs? What is the job market? What is the future for young people? Where's all of these things going to go? And so there's this sense of insecurity. All right, threats. Certainly we're threatened by this whole racial issue going on in our country. We're threatened by the polarization of our political parties, the polarization that we see all around the world, the struggle with economies fighting one another, our struggle against the secular world that seems to, on the one hand, we live in a strange world. We live in a world where people stand on soapboxes and talk about right and wrong, and it's the same people that are okay with murdering unborn children. We want to save the whales, but we don't care about unborn children. We don't like this particular thing, and we want the rule of law here. But in terms of morality and the sanctity of marriage, all these things, everything is just do what you want to do, whatever you want to do, whatever truth, whatever thing fits you, you go ahead and do. Well, and what's the result? Marriages falling apart left, right, and center. Families that can hardly stand being together. Societies, communities, cultures breaking apart at the seams. All these threats that we're experiencing, and it all leads to a sense of insecurity. Where's the security in all of that? And then number 3, isolation. Isolation, when you're alone, it's easy to feel threatened. It's easy to feel insecure. When you're with a whole group of friends and you go into a scary situation, if you look around and you go, well, I'm with my friends, how bad can it be? When you have a close family, a great marriage, great family unit, great extended family, then when you go through problems, when you go through struggles, when there's something that threatens your life and your well-being, your extended family, all the people that know you gather around you. And they protect you, and they give you this sense that it's going to be okay. There's sort of that strength in numbers feeling. When you're a part of a church that cares about each other, then there's that sense that no matter what happens, I'm not on my own. I mean, one of the saddest things about this COVID-19 thing is people go into the hospital, they get sick, and then their own family can't be with them. And there they are, facing the biggest struggle of their life, perhaps, and they have to do it alone. We've all had people die in our lives, and the saddest part is when they die and they were all alone. No one likes the thought of that. Isolation leads to insecurity. What we need is a good shepherd. That's what we need. This past week we read from John chapter 10, and Jesus called himself the Good Shepherd. John chapter 10, 11 and 12. Jesus said, I am the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. Protection. See, we need protection. We're feeling insecure in life, and what we need is protection. And that's what Jesus offers us. He offers us protection. Now, he calls himself the Good Shepherd, and then he starts talking about those who are the hired hands. See, the hired hand is doing the shepherding thing just for money. It's not like he's concerned about the sheep. If one gets lost or not, the wolf comes in and destroys one of the sheep, the hired hand is not out anything. He doesn't own the sheep. I mean, parents, you know how this goes. You buy your kids something, and you give it to them, and half the time they don't take care of it. Why don't they take care of it? Because they don't appreciate how much work it took you to earn the money to get the thing in the first place. Now, when that same child goes out and makes some money and then buys something with his own money, guess what? He takes care of it. Why? Because he understands the value of this thing, because he owns it. See, that's what Jesus is saying. I'm the Good Shepherd. I'm the owner. See, we belong to Jesus. The Heidelberg Catechism, question and answer number 1, what is your only comfort in life and death? That I am not my own, but that I belong, body and soul, in life and death, to my faithful Savior. See, that's security. We need a good shepherd that can protect us. The need for a good shepherd, John chapter 10, verse 11 and 12. The man runs away because he's a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. Care. The good shepherd cares. The hired hand doesn't care. He doesn't care because he doesn't own the sheep. See, we have to have this sense that we're cared for. When you feel like you're being cared for, you have a sense of security. These two are related. Security and care go together. Some of you kids, when you get sick and your mom, makes something special for you. My mom used to give us ginger ale. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's true. I don't know if there's any merit to it, but she thought, ginger ale is good for you. You get this when you're sick. Therefore, for most of my life, I did not like ginger ale because I always was drinking it when I was sick. I finally got over it, and I love ginger ale now. But when someone cares for you, you feel like you matter, like you count, like there's some order to the world. Again, it's that isolation thing. You don't feel isolated. You feel like you're a part. When you're with a group of friends and someone calls you on the phone and says, "Hey, would you like to go do something?" What does that do for you? It makes you feel like you're somebody. It makes you feel like that despite whatever struggles or problems you're going through, that things are going to be okay. That's why it's so important that as a church we are a caring church. Because it gives people strength. They have a sense that there's somebody. Jesus is the good shepherd. He cares for us. The need for a good shepherd. John 10:14-15a. I'm the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. There was an old show, it was called Cheers. And the theme song went, you want to be where everybody knows your name. And that's really true. I mean, when you go somewhere and you go to a restaurant and all of a sudden someone calls your name, it feels good. Again, it gives you that sense that you fit, that you belong. And when you have a sense that you fit and you belong, the insecurity that you may have felt sort of drifts away. Dale Carnegie, in his course, the Dale Carnegie course, the first session is about how to memorize people's names. There's like 30, 40 people in this course, and they teach you a way to memorize people's names. And everyone really succeeded at it, except me. When I was born, that CPU part of the computer up here that remembers names is just, someone forgot to put it in there. So I mean, they gave us a technique. You're supposed to look at someone and make up an animal face or something out of them, and then somehow associate their name with it. And anyway, that now I have two things that I'd forget: the animal face, and I can't remember the name that goes with it. But the point of the exercise, according to Dale Carnegie, was the sweetest sound to a person's ears is their own name. You check it out. When you say someone's name, it makes a difference. And when you hear your name, you feel like you matter. You feel like you count. And when you count, see, it takes insecurity away. Another way of thinking about being known is being understood. When you're in a marriage and the marriage is falling apart and there's nothing but arguing and fighting, what both parties so desperately want is for the other just to understand. Do you understand me? In the middle of any conflict, the conflict is happening because two parties don't understand each other and they don't take the time to do it. You don't know me. You don't know what I think. You don't know what's going on. You think you do, but you don't. And everything that you say says that you don't. If you want people to listen to you, you must listen to them first. You must give them the sense that you understand them. See, when you have understanding, see, that takes the insecurity away. See, in the middle of a conflict, there's nothing secure. Conflict is not a place of security. Conflict is the place of insecurity, and we live in a world that excels in conflict. Everything is conflict. Sports is conflict. Business is conflict. Politics is conflict. Science is conflict. Religion is conflict. Everywhere we go, there's conflict, conflict, conflict. So to be connected to the Good Shepherd who knows us. He knows us better than we know ourselves. If there's anyone that understands what you're going through, understands it to the nth degree, it's Jesus. Jesus understands your struggles. Jesus understands your frustrations. Jesus understands the conflict that you're going through right now, the loneliness that you might be feeling, the insecurity that you're feeling. Maybe you weren't raised in a good home. Maybe you have this sense of insecurity that you've taken with yourself your whole entire life. And you are inherently insecure in any and every situation because of the insecure situation in which you were raised. Well, Jesus understands that. Jesus was there. He understands exactly what you're going through. He knows you and He understands you. And that alone can help relieve some of the insecurity that we may be feeling. All right, to be known. The need for a good shepherd, John 10:15b. I laid down my life for the sheep. To be loved. To be loved. A sacrificial love. How do you know that you're loved? You know you're loved when a friend calls you on the phone and says, hey, let's go do something. That's when you know you're loved. You know you're loved when your mother makes your lunch for you for school every single day. She gets up early, she makes your lunch, and she puts those little things that you like in that lunch just for you. Does she get paid for this? No. Does she get thanked? Hopefully. But she does it even if she doesn't get thanked. See, that's love. Husband and wife. Who have the right attitude that they are there to sacrifice for the other. I'm going to be a servant to you to make your life special. I want you to become all that God has in mind for you to be, and that's my goal in life. See, that's love. When you see someone sacrificing for you, then you know you're loved. You know, there's an old saying that something is not worth what you think it's worth. You can own something, you're trying to sell it, and you think it's worth so many dollars. But it's not worth it. It's not worth what you think it's worth. It's only worth what someone else is willing to pay. So what are you worth? Not what you think. You are not worth what you think you're worth. You are worth what someone is willing to pay. And what was God the Father willing to pay for your life? He was willing to pay the life of His Son. See, when you're loved like that, someone who's willing to sacrifice you, you are so valuable, you are so worthy that someone is willing to sacrifice for you. See, that gives a sense of security. Does it matter what other people think of you? If you are loved, see, that's why building a family where you are loved is so important. See, if a child has a sense of being loved, then when they go out into the scary world, who knows how people are going to treat your child? But it doesn't matter because your child is loved and your child knows that he is loved. It doesn't matter what other people say or what other people do. Love. The need for a good shepherd. John chapter 10, verse 16. I have other sheep that are not in this sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd, to be a part of something bigger. That whole isolation thing. When you're a part of a bigger group, you're not as afraid. You're not as insecure. Jesus wants to save you, but he not only saves you, he wants to save your family. He wants to save your friends. Together. See, that's what's so important about the church and the kingdom, what God is doing, and being a part of that. Being a part of what God is doing. Being in the flock. Not on the side. Some of you are sort of on the side. You come to church because, I don't know, you grew up with it, or you're there, but maybe you don't feel like you belong. Maybe you don't feel like you have the necessary gifts. You're insecure. I don't know. Be a part of it. There is security in being a part of it. Get involved.
leaning